guest speakers here today. We have Claudia and Andrew.
Hi,
Claudia
everybody.
Claudia is here with Small Business, and Andrew is from Tell No Lies. And we're delighted to have you both here. So just give me a few seconds as I set up the slide code.
You have a moment.
Yeah.
Andrew, just pop on full screen or presenter mode.
Yep.
Okay. And so welcome to all the attendees in so far. I'm not sure if any of you have attended any of the previous masterclasses that I've done. If you have, I hope you enjoy, or we hope you enjoy tonight or today for India and Singapore. As you can see behind us in Australia, it's dark and it's been a very rainy day. On the Shopmatic YouTube channel, you will find the first masterclass that we did on the e-commerce growth framework, and then on the second masterclass on branding for growth. So for those that have been with us before, you will probably be aware that the next pillar for e-commerce growth is data analytics and insights. So looking forward to getting into that today. And so we've got Davi, Priyanka, Tech and Sangeetha. If you guys want to pop into the chat and tell us what kind of business you have or where you're at in your e-commerce growth, that will help us channel our presentation today to your needs. Hi, Uma, are we taking it live? Yes? Oh, yes, you guys are.
Not yet, not. I'm just setting it up.
Working on it. That's all good.
Yeah. I'm just...
Welcome, Sharon. Annie Suzanne, welcome. For any of the attendees, if you would like to let us know about your business, what industry you're in, what you're hoping to get out of the session today. Shamista, welcome. So we've just got a couple of minutes before we'll kick off, but happy to chat in the meantime.
Okay, I've set it up for live. I'll just quickly.
Live on Facebook.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Uma.
So how's it today in your neck of the woods?
Weather-wise, it's horrible.
Is that right?
Torrential rain. I actually had this afternoon, I was invited back to my old university where I did my Bachelor of Business and Marketing to speak on a panel to some of the first year university students. So I've been there today on a panel talking about what I studied and my career. So I was there and then I came through the rain back home.
Oh, okay.
And then to do our masterclass tonight, which I'm looking forward to. I'm always enjoying my masterclass with Shopmatic. So
thank you. We always enjoy having you here, and this is our third session with you. So yes. I mean, it's fantastic to actually just go through these pillars that you actually have as a framework and really do them one by one and really build the business in an extremely sustainable way. So excited. And then also to sort of like welcome Andrew to our panel of speakers. The first time you're here with us, Andrew, so really delighted to have you as well. Just going to give a few more minutes because it is just about exactly 6 p.m. here in Singapore and 3:30 in India. And we have, Shopmatic users joining us from everywhere. We're just going to give a few more minutes for people to join. And like Claudia has shared earlier, these webinars are exclusive masterclasses that Shopmatic brings. Every month we have a session, and we partner with experts to bring these essential information on e-commerce that can help small business owners like yourselves to build your brands and grow your business sustainably. Peppering along with masterclasses, we also bring other webinars on a monthly basis, which are essentially called as My Success Stories. And we, we look at our panel of delightful stories and shops that are built on Shopmatic, and love to bring the insights of those entrepreneur journeys to you, and we curate a few of them, and once in about like maybe 2 or 3 months we have these My Success Stories with entrepreneurs on the Shopmatic platform. So make sure that you are watching out for these invitations in your emails that you receive from Shopmatic, or if you have downloaded the Shopmatic app, then we have also introduced a new way to invite you, which is push notifications via your app. So these are the ways that you can actually find out more about our webinars and register for them. And post the sessions, these webinars do go up onto our YouTube channel. So if you have yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, then please immediately after this session, please do go and subscribe to it. You can see all of our past webinars, including the ones that Claudia has done with us earlier. So you get a full picture of her framework, and also review these webinars at your own pace and leisure, so that you can go back to them again and again to get the valuable insights that our speakers bring to you. Okay, so we've got quite a bit of people joined already. Let me just quickly drop a chat to welcome everyone, and here we go.
I can see some Australians popping in there as well.
Welcome, fantastic.
Yes, welcome, Wayne. And yeah, big welcome to Andrew, who's presenting, co-hosting with me tonight, or today, I should say. Data analytics and insights is one of the more challenging pillars of e-commerce growth, hence why I lean on one of our key gurus, to really support us, because it's such an important part of e-commerce growth.
Right. Nice. Okay, so some basic house rules as always. When we will take question and answers at the end of the session. So if you have any queries for our guest speakers, please make sure that you put them into the Q&A box, and we will be keeping some time to address them all. And yeah, essentially that. No other house rules really beyond that. Okay, all right. Hello, Davi. Nice to see you again after a long time. So Davi runs a wonderful Shopmatic store, which is she's a painter. She's an artist actually, and she does these wonderful watercolors and many such sort of like things. And I've seen her work. She especially has a wonderful series of paintings, I think, on Singapore shop houses, if I'm not wrong. So do drop in the chat your Shopmatic store URL. That will be a great way for you and for us to actually share it with everyone else, and drive some traffic, get people to see your business, your products, and learn from each other and give some business to each other, show some love to the people here in the Shopmatic stores. Okay, great. So please drop your store URLs in the chat, please, and we'll make sure that we are just sharing that with everyone. Okay, you can continue to do that. Hi, Sushma. Nice to see you again. Okay, about a minute, and then we will get started. Will that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So just for those new people that have joined in the last couple of minutes, I was mentioning earlier that I've done a couple of masterclasses with Shopmatic the last few months. The recordings are on Shopmatic YouTube. You'll see tonight that this is part of the e-commerce growth framework, which is about helping you grow your business and how you think about the pillars of growth. So please, if you are welcome back for those that have seen my previous masterclasses, and for those that are coming tonight for the first time, welcome. And yeah, please go back to the YouTube channel after today, because the pieces of the puzzle will fall a little bit more into place when you see the overarching e-commerce growth framework.
Yeah. So here we have actually, Davi has shared her website URL, and I've just put it on the chat for everyone to see. So please keep them coming, and I will continue to share them. Why don't I just take the next minute or so to do a quick round of formal introductions about Claudia and Andrew, and then I'll sort of like hand it over to the two of you to take it forward. So a quick few words about Andrew. He is a founder and director of Tell No Lies. It's a boutique data consultancy company located in Sydney, Australia. And for the past 6 years, he has helped many businesses of all sizes to achieve growth and transparency through the collection and analysis of data. He's also successfully scaled several businesses, different offerings from e-commerce and lead generation and data and traffic-based online business. I'm literally reading this off what Andrew has shared. I will, allow Andrew to do a much better introduction to what he actually does and his experience after this. For those of you who have not had the privilege of attending Claudia's early sessions with us, a quick few words about her. She has about 25 years of experience in the digital marketing and advertising strategy space, and has worked with businesses across Australia. She has also personally launched her own e-commerce business and run that successfully for about 15 years before she successfully sold it, and it's continuing to be an e-commerce business even today. And she has worked with both large companies as well as small business owners. And I think one of the missions that she has, which really sort of resonates here with us in Shopmatic, is the fact that she wants to ensure that about 60% of the small businesses that go online actually are successful. And she has like a mission statement which says that she's got a goal working towards this to do this by 2025. Right, so we're not too far away. We are in 2021, having put behind us 2022, which was a challenging year by most standards for everyone. But 2021 is a new year, and along with it comes many opportunities. So here we go. So this is our third session for the year, and I would like to hand it over now to Claudia and Andrew.
Thank you, Uma. Many thanks again to the Shopmatic team for giving us the opportunity to host these masterclasses. Today, we're specifically focusing on data awareness and the keys to e-commerce growth. So this is the third masterclass, as I mentioned earlier, that I'm hosting for the Shopmatic team. And what we're planning today is so that you can get a lot of takeaways, from data in digital. Basically, we're really keen for you to understand how important data is to the growth of your business and to start putting some of the fundamentals in place when it comes to data. And that means in a meaningful way. We know there's lots of data out there and there's key metrics that you know about your business. But for you to sustainably grow over the long term, data is such a key pillar for growth. So just to introduce myself, thank you, Uma, who already introduced me a little bit. I'm Claudia North, co-founder of With Small Business. I'm actually a certified practicing marketer, and I've been in digital marketing and strategy for over 25 years. I've worked in Australia, across New Zealand, Asia, and also North America. And I've also founded a number of e-commerce businesses. And we basically started With Small Business to make expert e-commerce marketing advice affordable for small businesses globally. And Uma touched a little bit earlier on, our vision and mission to help support the success of small businesses, particularly in e-commerce and the complex digital environment. So before we get started, we love to do a poll so we can understand a little bit more about our audiences. So basically, we would like to better understand where you are at in your data and analytics journey. So if you just take a few minutes to select one of the following answers. So Uma, are you okay to launch? Thank you very much, the poll. So if you can just select one of these that makes sense for you. So I need to connect my my shop to Google Analytics, or I have it connected, but I haven't done anything with Google Analytics yet. The third one is I have changed some settings in my Google Analytics account. And the last one is that my Google Analytics account is set up with e-commerce best practices. So we'll give everybody just a minute or two just to select which of these responses best suits your current circumstance. And that will just help us with tailoring some of the content in the session today.
Fabulous. I can see the bars going up and down. I can see about 50% of the people have already responded. We'll just give a few more minutes, well, not minutes, we'll probably give a few more seconds to make sure that everyone has opportunity to respond here. Davi, I can see your answer in the chat. If you wouldn't mind, please do answer the poll. This is a single choice response poll because you really can't be having more than one selection. So yeah, please do give us a response. We'll be closing this in a few seconds. Like Claudia said, very useful to have the conversation going forward, right?
Absolutely. And Rinku, just to your point, you mentioned a little bit earlier about, a lot of businesses want to grow before they start to leverage data and analytics. And yeah, to your point, right from the get-go, if you have your data and analytics set up, you can start leveraging that from a growth perspective. So absolutely, you're on the right page, and that's absolutely what we're here to talk about today.
All right. So if you still haven't responded, please may I request you to do the response right away, and we will be closing the poll in the next 5 seconds. Okay, so still seeing some responses coming in. People are taking some time to think about it. Okay, that's good. That's
which is fair enough.
Yes, fair enough. Absolutely. Right. Okay, so so maybe we'll close it now and move forward. We will have an opportunity to take this further in the conversation, I'm sure. So let me just end the poll right now.
So Davi, fair point. I didn't put in the poll that you haven't connected Google Analytics at all. So fair enough for not responding to that one. And I will make sure that I include that in, in the poll next time. Okay, all right. So thank you, Uma. So before I introduce our co-host, who I'm very pleased to have here today, I just wanted to give you some context of where data analytics and insights sits in the e-commerce growth framework. So I did mention earlier, but for those people that joined my very first masterclass in December with Shopmatic about the must-have growth framework for e-commerce, you might remember this slide. For those that joined my masterclass in January with Shopmatic, we talked about the fast tracking your brand for online growth. You might also be familiar with this slide. But for those that are new today to my masterclasses with Shopmatic, what I wanted to share with you is the e-commerce foundations and how important they are to growing your online business, particularly in supporting sustainable growth. So if you haven't seen these masterclasses, I highly recommend jump onto YouTube's, Shopmatic's YouTube channel to see the foundations. But basically what we did was touch on what I call the 8 foundations or pillars that lay the groundwork for your growth and scale of your business. And so you can see each of these here. So whether you're a new store owner or you're an established store, the same foundations apply. We've used this framework with startups all the way through to well-established e-commerce businesses that are turning over millions of dollars annually online. It has not only simplified digital marketing for these small businesses, but has also provided them consistent growth over time. And we've also noticed that the longer businesses actually commit to the framework, the more their revenue increases and their new levels of growth go to an extra tier each time. So today we're going to do a deeper dive on our second pillar of e-commerce growth, which is data, analytics, and insights. So there's a saying which I actually got from Andrew, I stole from Andrew, which is you can't manage what you can't measure. And this is really true when it comes to e-commerce. So many business owners that I've worked with have been really daunted by data. It has a really technical nature. There's tracking codes, user IDs, attribution modeling, etc. However, if you want to grow your business sustainably in e-commerce, it's mandatory that you actually collect data and you start analysing it. It's been recorded that companies that are actually using analytics tools have seen or experienced about a 15% increase in sales, more than companies that are not using analytics tools at all. So basically the first step on your data journey is getting your Google Analytics account set up correctly and to be gathering data in a meaningful way. Now in the poll we asked, have you connected your Google Analytics account? Have you actually set any features in the account? And the reason being that often small business owners think that because somebody's connected their Google Analytics account with their e-commerce store, it means that they're collecting data. Unfortunately, they are collecting data, but not in an accurate way. And that being that Google Analytics out of the box doesn't capture data in a true reflection of what's going on in reality. Sometimes you might be seeing sales that are triple the actual numbers that are coming in and the money coming into your bank account. And that's due to being able to set up the account with specific settings and features for e-commerce specifically. Another point that I'd mention is that it actually can take months to get enough data to be able to start to see real trends and insights that allow you to have confidence to make decisions about particular pages that people are landing on, products that people are purchasing, your bounce rate, your conversion rate, etc. So what we would suggest is that you at least want to have your Google Analytics set up for at least 3 months to be gathering enough data so that you can start to see some real insights. So even if you're concerned that you don't know how to use Google Analytics as an analytics and reporting tool, you can always reach out to our resident expert or to Shopmatic to get help to understand what the data and insights are saying. But without the data to start with, you're literally running your e-commerce business blind. So moving on to the agenda for our masterclass today. So what we're going to cover is what does it mean to become analytics aware? Then we're going to actually touch on what is the process to becoming analytics aware. And then finally, Andrew's got some real world examples because he's a real world expert with real clients and the director of his business. So he's going to share with us today his experience with his clients and the successes that they've seen by using Google Analytics and data properly. So I would now like to introduce you to our data and analytics guru, Andrew Arnott, Director of Tell No Lies.
Thanks very much, Claudia. First of all, can you hear me okay? Coming through loud and clear?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Excellent.
But I'm just going to give you a little more credit before you get started. But basically, the reason we've chosen to work with Andrew is because his knowledge and passion for data we have seen is second to none. He brings a wealth of experience in both data and analytics. What I love, it's across both small business as well as big business. And the reason that this is important is because we're both inspired to help small businesses become big businesses. So Andrew, thank you so much for co-hosting with me today and welcome. And we will hand over to you.
Thank you very much. Wonderful to be here, and a very good evening to everybody, or it's evening where we are. So whatever time it might be or whenever you're watching this, I hope you're enjoying so far. So yeah, thanks, Claudia. As Claudia mentioned, my name is Andrew. I'm the founder and director of a company called Tell No Lies. I called my company Tell No Lies because I believe that the numbers tell no lies. And one of the things that I really focus on a lot is removing opinion from your decision making. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is you might be deciding, you might have a big decision to make. Maybe you want to launch a new marketing campaign and spend a lot of money buying traffic for your website. Maybe you want to buy some new inventory. Maybe you want to expand into a new area. And if you are discussing these choices with your business partners or just by yourself, what you'll find is that you'll have lots of different opinions come forward about what should we do. One person might say, well, we should do this. Another person say, well, no, I think we should do that. And what I'm trying to say is that maybe you're both right, or maybe none of you is right. So how do you make the decision? Well, what I've found through my professional career and what I've helped many businesses to understand is that the best way to make decisions is by using data, because data doesn't care what you think. It doesn't care about opinions. It just gives you a hard, unbiased answer to the questions that you're asking, and it helps you make much better decisions because you're going off something that is not based on opinion, but it's based on hard fact. So in almost every case, what happens is that you end up making much better decisions, and which helps your business grow, and you make more profit as a result. So I'd like to start tonight with one of my favorite quotes, which is from Lord Kelvin, which says, if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. And what we're here to do tonight is we're here to improve our businesses. Okay, so we're running e-commerce businesses online. I'm sure that for those of you who have started already, you are probably finding it pretty difficult. Okay, maybe you're one of the lucky ones with a fantastic offering and people are just buying your products, you know, hand over fist without you having to do anything. But for most of you, you'll find that it's very competitive and it's very difficult. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to improve every aspect of our businesses, from marketing through to the customer experience online, and then through to after sales as well. And the best way that we can improve is to measure what we're doing and then analyze our results and then make improvements and make changes to those, make changes to our operations and then measure the improvement. So we want to measure everything that we can. We want data flowing in from everything that we're doing so that we can measure and improve. And so I suppose the next question that you might be asking is, well, what should we measure? And the answer is everything. There's nothing that you shouldn't measure. You should measure everything. You should be having as much data coming through from all of your different activities and all of your different online presences, so you can measure everything and analyze everything. So one of the great features that Shopmatic has out of the box is that it connects very easily to your Google Analytics account. And so connecting your Google Analytics account to your Shopmatic store is just a matter of finding your tracking code. And there's very clear documentation in the Shopmatic setup documents, which will help you do this and step you through this step by step. But all you have to do is find your tracking code in Google Analytics and then literally copy and paste that into the interface in the Shopmatic interface. So it's very, very simple to connect your shop, your Shopmatic shop, to Google Analytics. And as soon as you've done that, you'll be able to have data flowing through from your Shopmatic store through to your Google Analytics account. So if you haven't done that already, bear in mind that Google Analytics is free. It doesn't cost anything to set up a Google Analytics account. So I would strongly recommend that you go ahead, if you haven't already, and set up a free Google Analytics account and then connect that account through to your Shopmatic store. And then as soon as that's done, you'll have data flowing through to your Google Analytics account. And bear in mind that you might not understand yet how that data can help you and how it can be useful, but you really want to have it in there, because once you are further down the line of your analytics journey and you understand the power that you have in your Google Analytics account, you'll then be able to go back and analyze that data that's sitting there. But if you don't connect your Google Analytics account to Shopmatic, you won't have the data and you'll miss out on those opportunities. So that's step number one. Bear in mind as well that Shopmatic has the ability to connect. What we're looking at here is your Facebook pixel, which you also want to do, because remember, we want to measure everything that we can. So connect your Facebook account to Shopmatic, connect your Google Analytics account to Shopmatic. All very simple through the Shopmatic interface. And as you can see here, you can connect your Facebook pixel and your Google Analytics account straight through to Shopmatic. And so once you've done that, I'm just going to close out these slides for 1 second and go to a demo Google Analytics account. So what we're looking at here is actually the demo Google Analytics account, which is provided by Google. And it shows us the data coming through from the Google merchandise store, which is pretty cool. And so what we want to do is very quickly just give you a very, very brief tour of Google Analytics and the basic reports which are available to you. Bear in mind that out of the box, Google Analytics has a number of very, very useful reports, but the real value that you'll get from your data is exploring it at a much greater depth than Google Analytics allows just out of the box. And so what we do at Tell No Lies at my company is that we help businesses go even deeper than Google Analytics allows by performing custom analysis, which is tailored to their businesses and goes much, much deeper into their campaign activity and particularly their marketing activity to generate even more detailed insight. But first of all, I just want to take you on a very, very brief tour of what Google Analytics allows you to do out of the box. So on the left-hand side here, you've got 4 basic areas which are stacked with default reports, which allow you to gain some very useful insight into what's happening on your store. So audience allows you to see who is coming to your store and where they're coming from. Acquisition helps you understand how you've acquired those customers. Behavior helps you understand what those people are doing on your store. And conversions helps you track purchases. And so, for example, in the audience section, we can just get an overview here. We can see how many users have come to our store over time, how many were new users, the number of sessions per user, how long they spent on the site, et cetera, et cetera. Then we can dig deeper. And this is where things really start to get interesting. So, for example, we can look at where they came from in the geographic report, so we can get a sense of what countries they came from, what cities they came from, etc. And I'd strongly encourage you to explore these reports, because the best way to get a sense of exactly what is available to you is to have a play around and have a look for yourself. Acquisition helps us understand where our users came from. Particularly useful report here is the channels report, which allows us to see how many users came from organic search, or from paid search, or from social, or from referral, etc., etc. So these reports deal with where users have been acquired from and how they came to our site. Behavior determines what actions the users performed on our website. So site content is a good one. It helps us understand how many pages, how many people have viewed what pages on our website. So this is a list of all of the pages on our site, and we see how many page views have been generated and all sorts of different data about how the content on our site is being consumed. And then conversions. This is going to be particularly important for those of you who are doing e-commerce, well, which is all of you, of course. So e-commerce allows you to see what products are being purchased, how often they're being purchased, who is purchasing them. You can do things like repeat transactions, were they new users who are purchasing, repeat users who are purchasing, etc. So to go through everything in the Google Analytics interface would take a long time, because it's quite complex. But I would strongly encourage you to, number one, connect your Google Analytics account to your Shopmatic account. And then number two, once your data comes in, have an explore. Just have a look at what these reports do. One of the best ways to get a familiarity for your data is to play with Google Analytics and explore what's available. You'll get a feel for what these reports are telling you. So what I want to go on to now is that once you have your Shopmatic account connected to Google Analytics, then we want to think about, okay, well, we have lots of data in our Google Analytics account now. What do we want to do with it? What does it enable? So here's a brief list of the things that we think are the most important sort of items that you would want to measure, or at least some examples of what you would want to measure through your Google Analytics account. Particularly, I've put number one as marketing campaigns, because when you're running an online store, one of your biggest cost items is going to be advertising. Okay, getting people to your store is quite difficult, and getting people to your store at the right price and buying the right products and making sure that those people are actually purchasers is very difficult. So analyzing the effectiveness of your marketing campaigns is a huge part of leveraging data to help you grow. So the second one I've got here is site performance. So you might see that by examining your data, that there's a particular page on your website that people don't seem to like very much. Okay, they don't stay very long on that site, on that page, or they exit that page very quickly when they go to it, or people who go to that page don't purchase from you. And so perhaps there's something wrong with that page. So you need to delve into your data and examine that page on your website and see if there's anything that the data can tell you about how you might be able to improve that page. Product performance is really important, of course. So potentially you might have 50 or 60 products on your site, or maybe there are 5 or 6 products on your site. But what you'll notice is that 80% of those products don't sell, and people don't look at them, or people aren't interested in them. And so you need to focus on what the 20% of products who your users do purchase and that your users do like. What are those 20%? Why do people like them better, et cetera, et cetera. Pricing fluctuations. So you probably have experimented in raising or lowering the price of your products. Well, data can tell you whether or not those decisions were good decisions or bad decisions. So you can ask the question, what will happen if I reduce my prices by 10%? Data will give you the answer. Was that the right decision, or was it the wrong decision? Should you make your products even more expensive rather than lowering the price? Perhaps that will make a difference. Data can give you the answer. So customer segmentation is a huge topic, which we will go deeper into because it's very important. The customer segmentation really just means, instead of treating everyone who comes to your website as the same person, you should understand that people have come to your website for different reasons. They've come from different areas of the world. They've come in search of different products. They are different people, and you can group them into very precise groups of buyers. So perhaps you might have, for example, a buyer who was interested in a certain category of product, or a buyer who has come from a certain marketing channel, or a buyer who has come from a certain geographic area. And what you'll notice is that those different customer segments perform differently. And so you have to understand, using data, how to target each of those different segments in the most effective way to make sure that you're giving those people a good customer experience. And so the customer experience that you offer to those different segments will be different because they're different people. And so data can help you tailor your customer experience to those segments to make sure that you're giving your customers the best possible experience. Geographic differentiation, obviously, where are your customers in the world? What cities do they come from? How does that affect their purchasing behavior? And so on and so on. Okay, so obviously this is just a very small list, but this goes on and on and on. Okay, the more data that you have, the more you can find out about your customers and your product and your website, and you can improve all of those things. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an example of what this means and how we do this. So what you're looking at here is just some example data, and I'm going to show you the difference between accuracy and relevance. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is a graph of users. Okay, this is users to my website. Great. Okay, all these numbers are correct. Okay, this is accurate data. I have the number of users, the number of new users, the number of pages per session. I have the ages of my user base, so I can see my user base segmented by age. And all this data is great, but I'm looking here and I'm thinking, so what? Okay, everyone has data, but so what? Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, look at this slide that I just showed you. What are we actually able to do based on this information? Just take this first chart, the users chart. I can see that I have these users and they're fluctuating, and perhaps on February the 19th, I had 19,000, and on February the 29th, I had 17,000. But what can I actually do to make my business better based on that information? And of course, the answer is nothing. Okay, there's this data, although it's accurate and it's there for me to examine, it doesn't help me at all. There's no action that I can take as a result of this information that will help me make more money or grow my store. It's in the industry, we call it vanity metrics. Okay, it's just data for the sake of data. So everyone has data. As soon as you connect your Google Analytics account to your Shopmatic store, you will have data. But so what? Okay, that's what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is the so what. What do you do with your data to actually improve your business? That's what we want to talk about. So I want you guys to start to think deeper about your data. Okay, start to think a little bit more in more complex terms about how we can use data to improve our performance. And you'll see here, I've got some sports equipment. Okay, so I have what I'm talking about here is a imaginary store. It's my Shopmatic store where I just sell 4 products. Okay, so I'm running an imaginary Shopmatic store and I'm selling 4 products, and obviously they're 4 sports equipment items. Okay, I have a soccer ball, a cricket ball, a golf ball, and a tennis ball. And so I've connected my Google Analytics account to my Shopmatic store, and now I have data. Okay, so I have user data coming through from my store. So if I'm running my Shopmatic sports store and I see that I have users here, how do I make more money using this information? Well, I can't. Okay, there's nothing I can do here using just user information to sell more soccer balls or to sell more cricket balls. So this is essentially pointless information. And so a metric, a piece of information that lots of businesses focus on is bounce rate. Okay, what is the bounce rate of my online store? And again, my objective here, what I'm trying to do is grow my sports store. I want to sell more soccer balls or golf balls. And so how do I do that using just the bounce rate metric? Okay, so I know that my bounce rate on February 21st was 40%, and on February 25th, it was 45%. How does that help me sell more? Again, it doesn't. Okay, there's nothing that I can do with this information to sell more sports equipment. And again, even revenue. Okay, so I know that on the 3rd of March, I made $14,000 of revenue, and on the 6th of March, I made $6,000 worth of revenue. And again, my conversion rates over here were fluctuating, which is good. I can see that I have some sales coming through. But again, how does this information help me to make more money and grow my store? Again, it doesn't. There's nothing actionable from this information. And so you're probably wondering, okay, we get it. We understand that these metrics, they're vanity metrics and they don't help. Tell us how you can help. What information can you use? Okay, so I'm going to take you through that right now. So where we start getting real insight is where we start breaking down our metrics more precisely. Okay, so we go deeper into our data. And in my imaginary store, I do a deep dive at the product level. And so I've got 4 products that I'm selling. And when I deep dive into my revenue data, so instead of just looking at this chart, which shows me how much I sold, now I can see how much of each product I sold. And I can see here that my cricket ball product is actually responsible for almost 60% of my sales, which is a lot. Okay, tennis is 24%, golf is only 4.9%. Soccer is only 4.9%, and tennis is 24.5%. So what I can see is that overwhelmingly people come to my store to buy cricket balls. Okay, so now I'm starting to get some really interesting insight because I'm looking into customer behavior and I'm looking at the products that my customers are buying. And now I can start tailoring my offering a little bit to the demand that my audience is demonstrating. So I think, okay, well, I'm selling a lot of cricket balls. So perhaps this is a market opportunity for me because the demand indicates that cricket balls are the most popular. Fantastic. So let's dive even deeper. So now that I know that cricket balls are very popular, I can look at where in the world my users are buying my cricket balls from. So I segment my user base to just those people who have bought cricket balls or are looking at cricket balls. And I see that the geographic distribution of people who are buying cricket balls is very heavily weighted towards Australia. Now, I'm an Australian business, and I've just made this example for the purposes of tonight. So obviously, this is all made up. But let's just say that for the purposes of my imaginary store here, I'm selling heaps and heaps and heaps of cricket balls to Australia, and not that many to the rest of the world. And so now I'm thinking, okay, well, I was spending a bunch of money on a Google Ads campaign that was focusing on America, but there seems to be no demand for cricket balls from America. So why am I spending a bunch of money advertising in a market where there is no demand for my product? Okay, so now we're getting into some really interesting stuff because now we're talking about spend allocation. Okay, so now I can think about, I have a $10,000 marketing budget. Maybe I should be targeting that $10,000 more precisely based on the demand for my product, which I can evaluate very precisely using the data which is coming into my Google Analytics account. So in this imaginary example, I'm looking at Australia and I'm saying there is a huge demand for my product in Australia. So that's now become my focus. It's my target market now, geographically, is Australia, because that's what the data is telling me. And so let's break it down even further. So now I go down into Australia only, and I look at Australia data. Okay, now in my store, I'm actually selling a bunch of different cricket ball items, and I can look at the performance of each particular item across a number of different dimensions. Okay, and you're going to be able to do this in your store. If you're selling more than one product, you're going to be able to break down the performance of that product across multiple different dimensions. And what I mean by that is you're going to be able to say, okay, let's have a look at all of these different cricket balls and let's see the age bracket which buys them the most. Okay, so we can see that 25 to 34-year-olds buy the most, and 65-plus-year-olds buy the least. Okay, so you can evaluate who's purchasing your product based on their age, or you can evaluate who is purchasing the product the most based on the price of the product. Okay, so are people tending to buy more expensive items more, or are they tending to buy cheaper items more? And you can evaluate the price point that sells the most and the price point that sells the least. And you can even go so far as to evaluate the day of the week that your products sell on. And this is something that I do all the time for my clients. You will be able to see that at different days of the week and even down to different hours of the day, people will purchase differently. They will be more likely to purchase on certain days of the week and at certain hours of the day. And this is very important because if you're running ads, so if you're running Facebook ads or if you're running Google ads and you're spending money to reach your customers, but you know that they don't buy at certain times, then you should switch those ads off at those times that you know they're not going to buy, so you can be more efficient with your marketing spend. And this is how you generate huge returns from your marketing spend and how you raise the profit of your marketing activity and overall your overall store activity as well. So the result of all of this analysis, when we dive deeper and deeper into the data and we discover more and more about our customers and their purchasing habits and what they are likely to do on our store and how they navigate our store, is that we're able to get way more targeted in our messaging and in our advertising to those customers. So the result of all of this analysis, the analysis that I just showed you, for example, is that we can now run a targeted marketing campaign because we know that there is a very receptive market to a certain product at certain times. So we can say, I want to run a marketing campaign that is just focused on Australia, which only sells blue cricket balls to people who are in the 25 to 34-year-old age bracket. And the marketing campaign only runs on Tuesday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And the price is $22 per ball, or whatever it might be, or potentially you could test different prices. But do you see how before you had data and before you had this analysis, you were just advertising and just hoping? Okay, you're putting ads out without much targeting to everybody in the world and saying, please buy my product. But now what you have is you have market intelligence. Okay, you know that there are certain people who are much more likely to purchase your product than others at certain times and at certain price points. And that's really the power of data. Okay, so the more data that you collect, the more intelligence you can gather about your potential audience, and the more you can tailor your experience to what those people actually want. And remember that we're running online businesses in this space, but it's still business. It's exactly the same as it's exactly the same strategy as you would employ if you were running a real world store with a brick and mortar presence with real products. You wouldn't treat every customer the same. You would think, who is my target market? How do I give them the best possible customer experience from when they step in the door to when they buy my product and when they leave and when they do after sales? If you treat all of your customers exactly the same, you will give a mediocre customer experience to everyone. But if you use data to evaluate how your customers respond, you'll be able to get a much more tailored response, a much more tailored approach to your target market, and you'll get a much higher return on all of your campaign activity and all of your effort as a result. And so the effects of this, the effects of getting really deep into your data and tailoring all of your activity to what the marketplace is saying about your offering, is that you raise your returns. Okay, so your business becomes much more efficient. You get a much higher return on all of your advertising dollars and all of your campaign activity, and your business becomes much more profitable as a result. And so this is what we do for our clients. And I want to share a couple of case studies with you, and then perhaps we can get into some questions. But I wanted to share some real world case studies of where my company, Tell No Lies, has done this for businesses of all different sizes. And I want to show you the results. So a couple of case studies. So this first case study was a children's online product store. It's online only. And so we took this company from no sales to a 900% return on their advertising spend in just 2 months. Okay, so this was a largely Google shopping campaign. And what we were able to do for them was launch them, do some optimization on their data. And then they became very profitable very quickly, because we immediately gained a really clear understanding of how their audience was responding to their products and to their website by using the power of data. And we were measuring customer activity on their website, and we could see very clearly what was working and what wasn't. And so the things that weren't working, we just stopped doing that. Okay, we stopped running ads for products that weren't selling, and we boosted and spent more money on products that were selling and pages that were engaging our users. And it's as simple as that. You stop doing what isn't working, and you keep doing more of, or you expand your activity in the areas where the data shows you that you're getting a response. So another case study, We had a homeware store. They had an online presence as well as a physical location. So this was a bonus for us because people could browse online and then buy in store if they wanted to test the products. But we were able to spend on average each month, we were spending around about $5,500 Australian dollars each month, and they were generating $98,000 in revenue in sales. And again, as you can see, this is a really strong growth story for them. And again, this growth came through optimization. And optimization is very, very important in analytics. So sometimes you get these results where you're just immediately successful, but where the real power of data analysis comes through and shines through is in continual improvement. Okay, so you make one change and maybe it makes a small difference. And then you build on that knowledge that you've gained to make another change, which makes even another small difference, but it takes you one step further up the mountain. And then the power of those changes that you're making, those little changes, those incremental changes that you're making every day, every week, every month, suddenly build into this very, very powerful force because you have so much intelligence about your customer base that suddenly your store, your sales pick up because you gain more and more of an understanding about your customer base and how to serve them best. So another case study here. So this was a health food store online health food. And again, we were running some this was actually very detailed data analysis because it's a very, very competitive niche, a very competitive environment to be running in. But we were able to get them to the point where, and they're still our clients, so we still do this for them today, where they spend about $4,000 a month in advertising and generate $35,000 in revenue from that advertising. Obviously, I just want to be clear, this is a return on advertising spend. So obviously this doesn't include the cost of inventory or the cost of operations. I just want to be clear about that. But one of the most important metrics which we deal with in terms of data analysis is you want to make sure that you're getting the best return on your advertising spend as you possibly can, because we don't have much power to control the cost that you pay for your raw materials or the cost that you pay for your wholesale products. But we definitely can control the profit that you generate from your advertising spend and how well your website performs as a sales tool. And that's what we do for our clients. And we were obviously able to generate some really fantastic results for this client, and we still are. Okay, I think, yep, we've got another few here. So this was a very challenging, very challenging client, but we're able to do quite well. This was a high-end fashion store selling very, very expensive high-end fashion items. Again, hugely competitive niche. So really hard to get an edge, but we use data analysis to get an edge. So we found that we were able to get some really insightful analysis done based on the data that we were able to gather from the purchasing activity on the site. And so we ran a focused campaign over 60 days and spent $7,000 on advertising in those 60 days and generated $44,000 in returns. So a clearly profitable campaign for them, and we were able to generate some great results. Again, even in very competitive niches, even more so in very competitive niches, you'll gain an edge by understanding your customer needs and your customer behavior better than your competitors, because you need to be constantly altering your strategies and altering your activity based on what your customers are saying to you, and they communicate to you through data. Okay, I think we have one more here before we wrap up. One more case study. So this was a company that was selling drinks online. So you would basically order these drinks online. They were only available online, and they would deliver them to you in person. And again, so we ran a Google Shopping campaign for this client and optimized it using the data that we were gathering from Google Analytics and some very custom analysis as well, which went quite in depth to analyze the behavior of customers on the site. And so we're able to get a 1,300% return on advertising spend. So we were spending sort of $2,400 a month and generating about $18,000 in revenue. And again, so once you're able to dial this in, you can see at the beginning, if you look at this chart, it takes a while to ramp up. Okay, so ramping up is a process of understanding your audience better and better, and that incremental improvement and learning more and more and more about the marketplace and learning more and more and more about what's working and what's not. And again, taking those little steps up the mountain, and eventually with enough time and enough discipline and enough rigorous analysis, we're able to generate some really strong returns for this company, and it just grows and grows and grows and keeps on growing. So I think that's the last case study that I have for you, but in order to just summarize, I think going back to that slide which I showed you before about at the very beginning, you want to measure everything, okay? Because anything that you measure, you can improve. And when we talk about winning, or we talk about running a successful store, it's really a process of incremental improvement. And the best way to improve incrementally is to be disciplined with your analysis and use quality data sources to perform insightful analysis and understand better than your competitors what your customers need and how to provide it to them. So yeah, look, I think we have some time for some Q&A, so I'll be led by you as to where we go from here. But Claudia, I'll hand back to you, and yeah, I suppose time for any Q&A.
Yeah, look, thank you very much, Andrew. I hope that you guys were able to take away from that data is hugely important to growing your online store. I think what Andrew showed us today is real case studies, and they're not pie in the sky case studies. They're actually achievable for businesses that are open to investing, the time to get their Google Analytics set up correctly. If you have a bit of a data mind and you're happy to dig around and look for insights, that's amazing. If not, without data, you can't find the insights. So even if you can't do the technical side of the data, there's lots of people out there that can help you interpret it. I know Andrew's team and also Shopmatic, we're here to support the Shopmatic store owners in terms of getting your Google Analytics account set up. If you need help with, setting up best practice for e-commerce, of course, we're here to support you. So even though, it might feel out of reach because it is quite technical, we're here to support you. And, Andrew's come along today to really show all the breadth of what you can do with the Google Analytics and how you can look at it in really in-depth ways to help you grow your business. So what we would like to do is to just take a few moments. We've got a final poll. And the reason we like to ask the poll at the end is because we would love to understand where the audience is at in terms of your data analytics and insights, so that Shopmatic, Andrew and myself can support the Shopmatic store owners in this particular practice. So if you can all just take a moment to respond to this poll. Again, it's just selecting one of these. So based on what you've learnt from today, we would love to know, in terms of, understanding now how important data analytics and insights is. I am going to, when you leave from here, are you going to ensure that you go and set up your Google Analytics account properly? Are you going to get a developer to set up your Google Analytics account properly? And again, we're talking about not just connecting it, but looking at some of the features and settings within Google Analytics so that you can start to see data in a more of a meaningful way and a more accurate way. If you need to find an expert to set up your Google Analytics account, you can select the third one. And then finally, you might say, no, I'm not going to do anything as I don't see this as a priority at the moment. So we'll just give you a moment to select which one is mostly aligned with where you're currently at, and then we'll be going into our Q&A session.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Andrew and Claudia. Great session. I can see that the people are responding to the polls. Like you said, we will just give it a few more seconds, and then we will move on to your Q&A. For those of you, for the umpteen number of questions I'm sure you have burning on data and how it can actually impact your business and really understanding it more, this is the opportunity to ask Andrew.
I'm just having a giggle, Uma. Rinku said there is no blue cricket ball.
Oh, okay.
There is, in my imaginary store, there is a blue cricket ball. It doesn't sell very much. No one wants it, but it exists.
Well, I do remember seeing a news feature a few weeks back perhaps about something interesting. There was an interesting cricket ball which is being developed in Australia, which was again, I failed to remember what the interesting feature was. Look it up, Rinku. You just might find that interesting feature was a blue cricket ball.
Maybe it was a limited series.
There's actually there's a question here from Dan Proctor. If that is the real Dan Proctor, where we're in the presence of royalty, so I should have worn a collared shirt. I apologize, Dan. I'm not giving you the respect that you deserve as the king of CRO. But
CRO, yes.
yeah,
We're hoping to bring Dan across UMA next month. Sorry, Andrew.
That's okay. So Dan says, what's considered a good return on advertising spend, which is actually a really good question. So what's considered a good return on advertising spend? So I mentioned the return on advertising spend in my case studies. The answer is actually there's a bit of a trick. It's a bit of a trick question because a good return on advertising spend depends on your profit margins. So essentially, if you run a business which is very high, very low margin, you need a much higher return on advertising spend to break even or to generate profit. If you run a business which is very high margin, so you make a lot of money off each product, then you can actually afford to spend more on advertising. So if you wanted to pick a number out of the air as an average break even return on advertising spend, it's usually around about 4 or 5. But it really depends on your unique situation in terms of your profit margins and how much your product costs to produce. So Dan, I hope that's an acceptable answer to your question. I would hate to disappoint you.
May I just sort of like tag along another sort of add-on questions to that? Does it also depend on the niche, how niche that audience is, and therefore the cost of acquisition of that particular audience?
Yeah, so the cost of advertising is absolutely relevant. So you'll notice that in some niches, it's much cheaper to advertise because there's less competition. And then in other niches, it's much more expensive per click because there's much more competition. So there's marketplaces within marketplaces. So if you're running Google Ads, for example, you are going to have to establish what your cost basis is for each acquisition. Depending on the product that you're selling and how competitive that market is. And so it can be, this is why it can be very challenging and why data can help you because it gives you that intelligence to understand, okay, how much should I be paying for customer acquisition?
Right.
So what is an acceptable acquisition cost for each customer given the competitiveness of my niche? So I've worked with people who basically say, look, we can afford to acquire our customers at $30 per customer. And I'm saying to them, if that is your business plan, you have no chance of succeeding because there's no way that you can acquire a customer for that price given the cost of your advertising. And they didn't know that. They had no idea because they had no data and because they had nothing to analyze. But you can actually use data research tools to actually evaluate the marketplace that you're even thinking of entering before you enter and saying, okay, well, how competitive is this niche? Can I gather some data on the competitiveness of the marketplace and establish whether it's even possible for me to compete in the marketplace before I spend money and before I spend a whole lot of money making an expensive mistake. So
yeah, and to see your case studies, Andrew, particularly in the fashion and health arena, I mean, I know from my experience, those particular industries are extremely competitive. So to be able to get that performance, particularly for small businesses, I think is because of the data allows you to get that edge, which most people will go and pay for advertising and cross their fingers and hope for the return. So really impressive to see those results in such competitive industries.
Yeah, and look, it can be just as valuable to find out conclusively that you shouldn't be competing. That can be just as useful because you can save that money instead of throwing $30,000 at a campaign. You can just say, look, we have no chance. Let's spend our money elsewhere and do something more intelligent.
Yeah.
The other sort of like interesting question some of our users have posed over time, right, is trying to make a choice, right? Like they're like, oh, should we do Google Analytics? That data is important versus, let's say, I've connected to Pixel, to an FB Pixel, and I'm getting some data from there, right? So is it an either or a combination of both? What's the approach that you would sort of recommend, or is there a point?
It's definitely not either or. It's definitely not either or. You want data from everywhere. You want as much data as you possibly can because what people like myself do and a good analyst or a good analytics company will use all of that data together. Okay, so we will merge data from your website, from GA, with Facebook, and we'll merge even data from Facebook with Google Ads. Okay, so we'll blend that data together to derive even deeper insight into what's happening, particularly stuff like if you're using a CRM product. If you can pull data from your CRM, you can relate that data all the way back to your ad platform. So we relate data from, a custom CRM. Yeah, so email EDM campaigns will relate that to your advertising activity. And it's quite complex to do that. But if we don't have the data, if there's just a blank space there, there's nothing we can do, right? So we can't perform an analysis on nothing. So the more data you have, the better. Google Analytics is a fantastic way if you don't have any experience with warehousing or databases. Google Analytics is such a great way to centralize all of your data in one place. And then a company like mine can come in and we can utilize that data to perform very complex analysis.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you. I think we have a question here from Davi, which is put it in the chat. So maybe if you could just take a quick look at that one, and then we can have that. And I think Dan's got another question in Q&A as well.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Would you like me to read it out?
I'm just reading Darby's question here. I'm just digesting this question to make sure I understand it correctly.
Yeah.
With this in mind, how can I have a wider reach? So wider reach in terms of, so Darby's basically talking about, he does pop-ups, they do pop-ups periodically, and which is basically a physical appearance, and they are an artist. So obviously there's more awareness and interaction because they're there in person with more, and they get more business that way. People either like their style or not. And then so working with interior design companies, it gives an added edge, absolutely, of course. And with this in mind, how can I have a wider reach? I think, Davi, what you're talking about there is you've got a B2B as well as a B2C approach. Obviously, depending on your particular style, if you can align yourself with B2B, so obviously, yeah, interior designers. I know that there's places out there that do artist hire, things like that. You might find that because your particular style is niche, which most artists are, to find your people online is probably quite expensive unless they're walking past your pop-up store. So your B2B approach probably makes a whole lot more sense. So then the question is, what, to Andrew's points in terms of data, who, from what you've learnt, what B2B people look like from a segmentation perspective, and then potentially looking at doing segmentation from a digital perspective. So do you go to LinkedIn or do you go to Facebook, looking for people with particular titles, or, in a particular region, to be able to get that reach from a B2B perspective to get, your artwork out to the broader community. So I think digital can absolutely help you if you find that your direct-to-consumer advertising or marketing is not getting the volume that you're looking for, if that makes sense. Andrew, I'm not sure if you've got any comments on that point.
Yeah, so I think what you said is absolutely correct. I think that it just comes back to my approach, which is that I want to measure everything. So if you're talking about potentially, and the question is not 100% clear, but I'm just going to account for the possibilities that I'm thinking about. If you're talking about potentially a live in-person event, how you can relate that performance to your online store, or perhaps even track people who have attended a live event and then subsequently gone to buy something on your store. Can we measure that? Absolutely, yes, you can. You can use particular store codes or purchase codes or particular URLs that they can go to. You can hand them a card with a QR code on it, which takes them to a landing page, which is only available to people with that QR code. And you can measure the engagement from offline to online and how that performs. So I've done that before. That's really successful. You can get a sense of how people are going from the real world to your digital store, to your online store, and then how those people convert. And then you can basically get an ROI for that real world event. So I'm not sure if that's 100% what Darby's asking, but yeah, it is absolutely possible to do that. I definitely recommend it. And once you get into this sort of data-based mindset, you'll start optimizing your activity around measurement. So before, when you might have done something you know, sort of a marketing initiative or some sort of a communication. Now you'll be thinking about, hang on a second, can we measure this? And if we can't measure it, do we actually even want to do it? So I don't do anything.
Is the effort worth the
yeah,
reward?
is the effort worth it? So I actually don't do anything for my clients that I can't measure because I don't see the point. So if I can't measure it, I'd rather not do it because I can't determine whether or not it was successful. So yeah, I think having that approach of where you want to collect data wherever you can is a really good one.
I really like that, what you've answered just now, Andrew, because I'm thinking that's another thing that customers ask us, right? That a metric what's a metric you optimize against can be different. It doesn't always have to be sales, right? It can be a click, or it can be, you know, what is the particular campaign's objective, and that metric changes. But then with data, you optimize towards a particular metric. It doesn't always have to be that anything is the click to a sale, right? Like you said just now, it's a QR code, it's a landing, it's a conversion to some other desired behavior that you wanted your customer to take, and you work your campaign towards that. Yeah, I thought that was a cool way to put it. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Okay. So we have another question from Dan, and it's actually quite a good one. Dan has asked, considering there are experts like you out there, should Shopmatic store owners do the GA training which is available? Why or why not? So essentially what Dan is saying is, if you're a Shopmatic store owner and you know that there are companies like my company who will come in and do analytics for you, should you really bother educating yourself about Google Analytics and set it up, or should you just come to someone like me and do it from the very start and not bother? And the answer that I have to that question is absolutely, you should do the training. Okay, you should absolutely educate yourself in data. And the reason is that I've worked with a lot of people over the last sort of 6 or 7 years, and my favorite clients, the people who I love to work with and where we get the best results, are people who already know the basics about analytics, but they've got to a point where they just can't go any further. And they're just like, look, I don't understand. I've taken it to this point, but I don't have the time or the experience to take it any further. And the reason why I like that client profile, or the people who have a little bit of knowledge, is because it makes us work much more effectively as a team, because we're talking about the same thing and we're on the same page. Whereas if someone doesn't know really anything about analytics, we can't really have that kind of team-based discussion where we're helping each other establish what we should do next, and I'm bringing my expertise, but they're bringing their basic understanding. So I would absolutely recommend that you go ahead and at least have a look around Google Analytics, do the analytics training, read the documentation, connect your store up to Shopmatic, have a play and see what you can discover, and then I'll come.
Break it. I always say.
That's right. You can't break it, no. But then I will come in once you've established that you need my help, or you feel like you need deeper insight. I'll come in and I'll take it much further. But yes, definitely do the training. Get educated first. And bear in mind that obviously I charge a fee for my services. So if you only need just basic stuff, you just want to see how many people are coming to your site, or how much your purchases is, there's no point paying me to get that basic stuff done for you. You should do that yourself. Save yourself some money and empower yourself in that way. So I come in when you're looking to supercharge your returns or do complex analysis that you can't do yourself. So
yeah.
Okay, we have another question here in the Q&A. Do you want to take that one, Claudia or Andrew? Do you want me to read it out for you?
So RTOs in India are a huge problem. Any data tools that collect data around this helping reduce RTOs? You'll have to define what an RTO is. I'm not familiar with that acronym. Does anyone know what an RTO is? If you can tell me what
registered training organization, I'm guessing. So registered training organization in India are a huge problem.
Return to origin?
No, actually.
Actually, I'm not sure what an RTO is, so I apologize.
Orders. Actually, did I get it? I was hoping from a data
I'm not
perspective.
sure if that was in relation to the training.
You got that? Okay, the more
cash on delivery orders getting rejected by customers. So cash on delivery orders getting rejected by customers. Let's think about that for a second.
Origin is a big problem. So, okay.
So
I think what they're saying is that products that are being delivered, so cash on delivery, are getting rejected by customers. So that's a huge problem, which is having an impact on data. I'm guessing any data tools that collect data around this is helping to reduce our return to origins. Okay. I'm not sure about the question, but I think that they're saying.
So I think they're trying to find out if there is, like data that can use to minimize the incidence of returns, right? Like, I mean, can we say, for example, this data which points to a certain profile of customers, or
so I can
locations,
speak to
perhaps?
that. I can speak to that a little bit. So this is obviously quite a specific problem in a marketplace that I haven't operated in before. So you'll have to excuse the fact that I can't address this particular problem exactly, but I have dealt with a very similar problem, which is qualification rates. So essentially what we deal with in many of the businesses that I have dealt with is essentially time wasters. Okay, so people who fill in lead forms but weren't really ever interested, or sign up for a webinar or a service and never attend, or sign up for a meeting or a booking and don't show up, that kind of thing. So it's a problem of qualification. That's absolutely a problem that data can very, very accurately determine the cause of and solve. So I have a case study, which I didn't mention in this particular webinar, but where qualification rates was a big problem. So things like people signing up for leads or giving their phone number and then being completely unqualified for the product or not showing up. And what we found was it was actually a problem with the advertising channel. So the advertising channel that we were using, the messaging that we were using in the ads, and the way that we were advertising in the campaign structure was very inefficient, and it led to very poor qualification through the ad platform. And what we did was we tightened up the acquisition funnel to make it much more difficult to get to the point where you submitted a lead to the business. So what that resulted in was that pretty much only very serious customers or very well qualified people were able to even find the way to reach the company. So you had to be quite motivated, and there were lots of barriers to entry, which sounds counterintuitive, but there are actually lots of barriers to entry to getting in touch with the company. And we found that massively improved qualification rates. So I think if you're getting a problem with people who are essentially having something delivered, but it looks as though a product is being delivered to the person, they don't want to pay for it. So that's essentially a qualification problem. That's absolutely something that data will solve, because you can go back to how that customer was acquired and how you advertised for that service, and basically figure out what's wrong with your advertising that this is happening.
I mean, you
100%.
don't want to pay $1 for a lead and have returns that's costing your business somewhere else, when you might be paying $20, but all of those people are keeping the product or paying full price. There's one other question here, Andrew, which I could answer, but I have you here, and so you'll answer even better than I would, which is, so what should be the observation period? So once you have an online marketing campaign and you start running in terms of generating enough data and to be able to make decisions about that, and do we tweak the campaign? I think, Gaurav, this is a fantastic question, because I find that so many of my clients will start advertising, and 2 days later, it's not working, let's switch it off. And that is the worst thing that you can do in digital. So over to you, Andrew, for this last question.
Yeah, so obviously good question. It's a question that we get a lot. It's something that that I find people who are inexperienced with data get very panicky. So like you said, Claudia, people will sort of, I've spent $20 and nothing's happened. I've spent $30 and nothing's happened. I've spent $50 and nothing's happening. How much more money am I going to set on fire? So there's a couple of, there's two ways to look at this. There's an imprecise way and there's a precise way. So the imprecise way of answering this question is that you would use a rule of thumb which doesn't relate to anything. Like, for example, if the cost of your product is $100, you spend up to 4 times the cost of the product before you cancel the campaign. Okay, so if your product costs $100 and then you spend $100 and it doesn't work, you spend $200 and it doesn't work, you spend $300, it doesn't work, but when you spend $400 of work, well, then you cut it. That's an imprecise way of answering the question. But that is an answer which would speak to your personal comfort level. Okay, so your personal sort of tolerance for risk. The way we like to do it is we just use a term called statistical significance, which is a mathematics-based way of evaluating the effectiveness of a campaign based on data. Okay, so it's just a mathematical model. You can Google it, Google statistical significance. And all it is, it's a mathematical formula, which you input the numbers, you input how many customers have seen the product, you input the price of the product, the cost of the advertising, and your conversion rate. And it will spit out for you a number of dollars that you'll have to spend on your campaign before you can be statistically certain that it's not working. And so again, we don't use opinion, we don't use emotion, we don't need to panic, we just wait for statistical significance, and then we turn the campaign off. So if you're not at a point where you're sophisticated enough to look at statistical significance or those mathematics-based models, you can just use that. You can just use that rule of thumb based on your own personal comfort. So I've heard the Forex method as 4 times the cost of the product before you turn the campaign off. That's just, there's no real science behind that, but if you need something simple, you can just use the Forex method, but I use statistical significance, which is more mathematical.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice. All right, do we have any more questions coming? We are almost like to the hour since we started, and it's been an extremely enlightening session. Thank you so much, Andrew and Claudia. Very important session, again, because this is something which more often than not scares small business owners, and therefore it's all the more imperative to address, right? And this can have like tremendous amount of impact on changing the business and really sort of like helping them get on the way of slowly and steadily building the business, right? So, and in a scientific manner. It's also not the very fun part of a business, I suppose, because creating ads and doing branding, all of those are the fun parts, and everyone enjoys that one. But this is an important and very valuable part. So it is important that everyone understands this, trains themselves up, and takes it as far as they can before they actually work with experts like Andrew and Claudia to guide them further with their expert services and advice. Okay, so I don't see any further questions coming through, so perhaps we call it a night. Thank you again for your time today. I know it's very late in Australia for both of you, so we really appreciate that you have taken this past 1 hour to run the session for us. For those of you who joined us, you will find that there is an exit poll that is available as you exit. But before that, I will run a very quick poll again, which is essentially, from us to you to understand what are the future topics that you'd like for us to run in the future masterclasses in Shopmatic. And this is a great opportunity for us to bring the right kind of content to you that you're actually looking for, and bring the right kind of speakers, and work with our partners like Claudia and Andrew to shape the right kind of content with respect to the webinar topics that we actually bring or go in depth on, right? So do take a minute to answer this poll before you leave, and as you exit the session, you will also find another small exit survey where we'd be grateful if you can give us some response to how you found today's session specifically, so that we can improve on it. We will be releasing our next topic for the month in a week or so, so watch out for this invitation in your emails, like I said, or look out for the push notifications if you are having this Shopmatic app downloaded. You will receive a recording of today's session in a few days' time in your email. So again, watch out for that. I'm sure that you will find this extremely valuable to see this session again and see the case studies and the various slides that Andrew and Claudia shared before it goes up onto our YouTube channel, and you can watch it again there. All right. So thank you again, Andrew and Claudia.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks everybody.
Looking forward to having you over again.
Attending. Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to it.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to be ending the poll now very shortly. Right. Okay, we can see that people are still taking time to answer the polls. I'm just going to keep it open for a while. So let's just give everyone a chance. And all right, so good night then, Andrew and Claudia. I will be ending the poll now and ending the session as well.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Andrew. Thanks.
Good night.
Thanks.
Bye,
Bye.
team.
Bye-bye.